Welcome back to another episode of the Elite Investor Show. I'm here today with Justin Noe. Justin, you have the experience of being a Marine Corps veteran, and you also are a very multifaceted real estate investor. You have your agent team, you have fix and flip, value add projects, you have rentals, and you now have a ground up side of the business as well. I'm excited to dive into all the things that you have going on today, ask a few questions, and hear all about your year and how you're growing.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it as well, James.
Let's do it, man.
Yes, sir.
So we're coming off like a pretty cool high because you just launched your first event series basically last night. I think there was months of work that kind of went into it. We had about, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 folks there last night.
Yeah, I think we had counted about 47, but it felt like it was 50 to 60 to me.
Cool, man. And I was super honored to speak at that, a topic I'm certainly very passionate about, leadership and growing your small business, establishing elite culture within your team. I've certainly learned a lot over the years. Some of those lessons learned in failure and in pain. So I was glad to share some of those lessons. Tell me a little bit about like what went into your thought process to like starting your own event and kind of curating a good experience there up in Brooksville.
Yeah, exactly. And I messed up to like talk about last night, like why I wanted to do that, what was in the name and everything else. So I appreciate the opportunity to let me kind of dig in on that a little bit. But ever since I got back to my hometown, that's where we hosted at, I had been wanting to create my own event. I had been to some other events and they were fine, but they just weren't exactly resonating with me. And so I was trying to figure out where to do it and, how would you put it on and things of that nature. So I kind of put it on the shelf until I found a model that I thought was a good one. And that is like networking up front, value add in the middle, networking on the end. And that is like based off of the Elite Investor event that is hosted down here in South Tampa. And so I've tried to convince people from Brooksville, where I'm grown up, and to come down to Tampa. They think it's a far drive. I guess 45 minutes in the vehicle is a little too far for folks. On a Wednesday evening. So I wanted to set something up there. Now that's about 6 months ago. Trying to figure out a place, talked to some folks about it. They really liked the idea, but didn't really have a good space for it. And until it dawned on me that I could use the space that Miss Beasley, the lady that allowed us to use her home and event space last night, to use it. And I was like, this is where we need to do it at. And we got to launch it. I came up with the name Relentless because that's what I'm trying to be, is relentless with what I'm doing in my life. And I'm trying to grow across my life. So it's not just in my business, it is with God, with my family and my business, and then the people that I want to be around. So I'm trying to grow my entire life and my entire experience.
By the way, quick shout out to your kids. Last night I went and grabbed something. I was grabbing some food at the end of the event. And I talked to a kid who was helping with the food. I was like, hey, is that still up for grabs? They're like, yes, sir. I was like, man, whose kids are these? These are very well-mannered kids. Like, who taught these kids these manners? And they're like, oh, I'm Justin Noe, he's my dad. And they didn't use your first name. But I was like, yeah, that tracks. That tracks.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I didn't even give it an opportunity last night to thank them for all the work that they did to help me set up that event. Like, we are a family, we are a unit, we go out and we do stuff together. And so people are always pretty amazed. Like, when we go somewhere, we're like, we have to unload the car. It's like, boom, everybody unloads the car. It's done. It's set up and everything like that. So having them help with the event would, help to be a great success.
Yeah. So if I could offer something about the event space, so we've been in the event space for years.
Yep.
I certainly don't know everything about it, but I do know what I know. And if I could offer you something, don't measure yourself against perfection, because every single time you'd be like, we could have done that a little better. I forgot this shout out. I forgot to mention this in my speech or whatever. But every single time, take some of those lessons and just try to iterate them on the next one. And eventually you'll curate a relentless and elite experience and people will flock to it.
Exactly. And well, again, that's what comes with growth. You learn what you messed up on, exactly what you talked about last night, with learning and that cycle there that you have of leadership and growth and all that good stuff. And so, I'm going to do better next time and I'll knock it out of the park. Yeah,
the cycle of success. So you're going to test as a leader and as a business operator. Ultimately, if you're going to try things you've never tried before, that's testing. So that's some of what we talked about last night. And some of those things, right, not all 100% of them are going to be successful. So, there's more than 0% that might be categorized as failures. And so the big part of that is learning, iterating on those lessons learned to make a system or process better, and then re-entering the cycle to do it again. And we certainly got into that last night. Something that I didn't mention last night when I gave that speech, though, was as a leader, this is probably the most important thing of all, actually. And I can't believe that I forgot to mention this. It never feels good. Being in that cycle Especially when you're in the F to L, the failure to learn, never has felt good.
No.
That's why I think it's important to be aware of that cycle, because you're like, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
All these other people around winning. Like, what did I do wrong? Where did I misstep? It's not the end of the world. You tested and you failed, and make sure you learn that lesson. Make sure you re-enter the cycle with something new. So it'll never feel good when you're in that cycle, and I just think that's a really important thing to remember.
And I feel it. It seems like when everything's going really well, then something gets thrown in, and then it kind of bumps you in the road. And sometimes it's not that bad, you get over it quickly. Sometimes you can't. And so that is something I've learned, and I'm trying to learn how to get through things quicker, so that way I can get back into the winning phase.
Yeah, I have a joke that's like, as an entrepreneur, you can go from being like, I am literally the king, to like, dude, I'm a total peasant. Like, I am such a piece of, I'm big on being really mindful of how you talk to yourself.
Yeah.
Because even if you joke, I think, I don't think I really appreciated this in my younger years, but even if you joke about yourself in a derogatory manner, like, you are building up a little bit of, a little bit of negativity about the image of yourself that you have, and I don't think that's good. So, but as an entrepreneur, anyway, the joke is, as an entrepreneur, you can go from like, I'm a literal king, to like, man, I'm a real piece of work. Like, and that process can take about 4 minutes sometimes. And so that's why I think resilience and mindset as an entrepreneur is a key factor.
100%. And that's really what I've been working on the last few years, is my mindset and resiliency. And that's, again, coming in with that growth piece.
Let's talk about your background a little bit. Like, how do you think you, being a seasoned veteran in the Marine Corps, kind of translated to your journey in entrepreneurship? I'd love to hear your unique experience with that.
Yeah, so first off, it allowed me to travel the country and see things differently than my hometown, which outside of being there, I maybe did a couple times out of the state when I was a little kid, but never really experienced life, if you will. And so traveling around and seeing different things, and seeing that things are possible, hearing from other leaders in the Marine Corps, or just in communities and things of such. But that was number one, going there, understanding that it doesn't have to be the way that you were taught growing up. So that, and then finding a wife that's not from your hometown either, who wants you to grow and wants you to be better, and then provide you with materials to get better. And then executing on that, and then learning about real estate and the power of it, and entrepreneurship, and leadership, and taking it to a different thought than what the military teaches you, right? That was big for me, and I've used the experience that by traveling across the country, which puts you in uncomfortable positions every 3 years. For me, historically, every 3 years, never longer than that anywhere in one place, and then never lived in a home more than 2 years. So it was good, because I lived in a bunch of different houses. I learned the housing market, and I became a love for real estate, especially when I started buying it. I hated renting and giving money away. And when I learned the concept of creating wealth through real estate, I went head first on it.
Yeah. Well, so what about the experience of actually being a Marine? Something that I've really taken away, and a lot of people who haven't been in the military might not fully appreciate this or resonate with this, but something that I took away from my military experience was, like, I learned the most about some leadership things from the leaders I didn't want to emulate. I learned the most from who I thought were, like, maybe not so great leaders, and I thought, if I was in their position, I would not do it that way. I think those were actually where the most prominent learning lessons came for me. Just seeing how you don't want to do things versus like everybody who kind of crushes it, right? What kind of growth experience or leadership lessons do you think you took away from the Marine Corps that maybe are unique in your application to entrepreneurship now? Anything stand out?
Yes, and the bad leaders always seem to stick out. But I always try to look at things in a positive light. And so what did I learn from those bad leaders? Well, I learned what I don't want to be like, right? And then, you see the good leaders and you try to emulate them the best that you can. I always like to say, like, I wasn't the best Marine. Like, I, didn't always have the best haircut, right? It was longer Marine. I was in the intel field, so we thought we'd be cool by having like a low reg or something stupid like that. But I would always push myself to challenge to be better. But I always thought that the folks ahead of me that I was looking at, I was competing up towards, like, wow, those guys are where I want to be. So I was looking at folks that were doing better than me and trying to compete with them instead of looking at people behind me and competing with them. And so I've always tried to find a leader in our community, wherever I was at, to look up to. Because I think it's important to have an example. And that's really what I appreciate about the Elite Investor and you and some of the other folks in there is the leadership that is provided, that we have an example of what right looks like, how to handle a challenging situation, so that way we can get better, we can learn from maybe your mistakes, or even bring our own mistakes, and then you help us learn on that. And so the other piece too, I would say, is being direct. I got some feedback from one of our teammates recently, and he just came on the team, and we were in our team meeting. It was like his first one, and some people were doing some things, and I was very direct with them on the team. I was like, hey, look, this is a commission. This is how we get paid. You need to know that 100% that is going to happen. And and everybody's like, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry for the mistake, all that kind of thing. But it had happened a couple different times, so I wanted to be like very
reinforce the point.
Reinforce the point. And so everything was good. Didn't think nothing of it. And then I was on the phone with the new guy later on about something else, and he was like, I really appreciated you being direct about that and not beating around the bush and getting direct to the point on it. And I was like, I mean, that's just kind of what we were taught in the Marine Corps. If you were doing something wrong, you were going to be let know. So, yeah. And I'm sure you're getting that in the SEALs as well. So,
yeah. I always joke that I would say different military communities have different ways of fostering discipline and consequences. And I feel like with the Marine Corps, every Marine Corps experience I've ever had, I'm like, man, do those guys hate themselves and hate each other? I'm like, man, I feel like pilots, fighter pilots, they love themselves and love each other.
Yeah.
I don't know for the teams, but I don't know. We probably love ourselves and hate each other a little bit. But Marine Corps, they hate themselves and hate each other.
Oh, for sure. No, that's 100% accurate. If you don't know that Marine, you hate that Marine. Until you get to know them, then you become buddies. Usually you have to fight them first or something along those lines, it seems like. But honestly, you're like, man, I hate Marines. And then but then you really love them because if anybody else talks smack, then you're ready to go at them. So I kind of taken that as well,
Why am I so angry? I don't know. You're a Marine, dude.
Yeah, dude. We breed hate and discontent. So that's what we do.
So speaking of kind of feedback, direct feedback, candor with your team when it's needed. I mean, we talked about this a little bit last night.
We did.
A lot of issues, challenges, problems in your organization can be prevented by fostering this environment where you're clarifying any uncommunicated assumptions. I'm a big believer in that. And sometimes it throws people off, right? It throws people off when they're not used to that. Like, hey, I'm assuming that this is going to be a certain way. I just want to make sure we're on the same page about it. And when you start to get into that, that pattern, sometimes you find that you didn't have the same assumptions. So it's a good thing to clarify.
Exactly. This actually came up recently with one of my partners, and I'm sure everybody's heard this statement before, but when you assume something, you're making an ass of you and me.
Yeah, it's like an acronym.
Yeah, so it's, I try not to assume stuff, but we're a pretty productive team. I don't like to say busy, I like to say productive. And when you're out there getting after it every single day, you have to make assumptions. You mentioned that last night, and so you just assume people understand that you want it to be done a certain way, and they understand the reason why. And that's the leader's job to ensure that they know exactly what needs to happen and why they're doing it. And so what I've tried to set up with some folks on our team, and I'm trying to do better at this. I fail and trying to fail often and fail fast so I can learn and get better about it, but is giving them a process. So I'm not giving you tasks. Mm-hmm. You're going to get this. You own this. You are the owner of this responsibility here, and you are going to make sure it gets better. If there's something that you don't understand, then you're going to ask questions about it, and then we'll help you solve the situation. So you are owner of this. So we try to give them ownership in the process, so that way they can feel like they can make changes where it makes sense.
What are some of the tasks?
So I would say our transaction coordination for our team, right?
Okay.
I had a process when I was doing it, and then my wife came on temporarily to help us out or help me out while we were in our initial growth phase until we could hire our first employee, mm-hmm. Brian. He was there last night, great human being, by the way. And we brought him in. Lena trained him on the process that we had, which was not great. Mm-hmm. And I sat down with him and I said, look, you own this. Like, this is yours. We understand that it's not that great right now and that it can be better. And I hope that you can make this better for us. That's why we're bringing you on the team.
Yeah.
And he did. He made it that much better. And now we have even more growth because we brought Alexis on, and she is an admin wizard, and she's taking, her experience as an admin while we're teaching her about real estate and combining those together to make her a superpower as well. Mm-hmm. And we are letting her own that and come up with a better system and process to make it more functional and quicker and better experience ultimately for our team and our clients.
Let's talk a little bit about growth. So you mentioned growth a little bit in that in those comments just now. Where are you excited for growth in 2025 for your business, and what does that look like as we contrast with maybe where you were a year ago?
Man, if I look back a year ago, I did this because I was looking at my annual goals and all that kind of thing, and I was looking back there. So at the time, it was me and my wife. And we didn't have much in our pipeline to close out. We were coming out of the historically slow season in real estate sales, and we didn't have much going on. We did have a couple listings. We did get them under contract, and we ended up closing them in February of that year. But we didn't have a teammate, and I didn't really have a plan for it, but I knew work was coming. Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking about it. I had just changed brokerages to a new one. And was excited for that change, and they were sending me leads, or were supposed to, but I hadn't gotten one yet, and wasn't really sure what the future was beholding to me. I had set a big goal for the time, which was doubling my sales volume and or tripling my sales volume and doubling my revenue into the business, and wasn't sure if I was going to make it. It felt big and it felt heavy, but then we got into it, we got after it, and then come March of that year is when we brought on our first employee as on a temporary basis. And once we got him trained up to a certain level, it was like, boom, exponential growth. And then I started getting on track to be able to hit those goals. But it was a slow go in the beginning of the year.
Let's talk about, so this was, now we're talking, looking back, March 2024.
Yes.
Okay, so what was it about that additional teammate? What was it that helped contribute to that growth? Did you free up a lot of your bandwidth so you could focus on like higher value type tasks? And maybe delegate some of the other tasks that you didn't want on your plate that maybe you weren't so good at or didn't really love?
Yeah, exactly. So my wife, a great woman, and she takes care of our children and, gets them to all over the place. At the time, my other daughter wasn't driving, and so she was driving all over the place, trying to help me, taking her laptop, and it was like very stressful for her as well. And so he freed her up, right, to be able to do things that she's good at and likes to do, which is our branding and our website, our social media, and all that kind of thing. And so it freed her up, which then, took a relief off of me that I no longer had to figure out a solution for her. Like, we figured that out with this teammate, and that he was on it full time. So then it gave me peace of mind to know that I could push this over while he's in the office working. I could be out on appointments, doing the revenue generating tasks.
Developing business.
Exactly. Getting out there, meeting with people, being in front of clients and customers, and then other business owners and other entrepreneurs, to let them know who we are and what we do.
Awesome. Okay. So now as we kind of, from March 2024, that led to some pretty rapid and explosive growth rest of this year. And then now that we're at the beginning of 2025, how's that have you feeling as we look towards the rest of this year?
The future looks bright, kind of stealing that from Patrick Bet David, if you ever listen to his podcast. But we've now revamped our investment company as well, right? Mm-hmm. I had a hodgepodge of partners and all this other kind of thing. And now we've gotten what I call my core four. And one's a Marine, the other one's my brother, and the other one is a partner that we met randomly. I'll have to tell you that on a different story of how we met. It's a pretty cool story. His wife is the one that came up to us and heard us over talking about real estate investing. But now we have our core four in our investment team, and we have systems and we have processes that we're building there. And we started feeling more comfortable to take our skill set and knowledge in the construction space based off of the burrs that we had done and the few flips that we had done to scale that to a higher level. And, we've already we're going to be closing on our first flip that we got at the end of last year. Thanks to Raphael and Matan, by the way.
Who are those? So some people watching on the YouTube show might not know who those folks are.
They're folks in our group right here in the Elite Investor. They are local wholesalers and flippers, right? They do direct to seller marketing, and they find deals all over the place, and they just happen to find them up in the Hernando County and Pasco County area, and we've purchased 2 of those deals so far.
Boom, getting it done.
Getting it done. And
cool.
I felt comfortable because we had the systems and the processes at least somewhat mapped out because we've done them in the past. And now we are, looking to scale that this year on a smaller level, but then we will look to scale it again the following year.
Okay, so you're going to do more projects this year than you ever have in the past.
Exactly.
Okay. What are some things that you think you're doing now to kind of mitigate that risk and prep not just yourself but your team for success?
So we underwrite our deals very conservatively because even in today's market, everybody's excited for the new administration and all this other kind of thing because they think it's going to change, but government change is slow. We understand that.
Yeah.
And so we understand monetary policy is going to be slow as well. So rates aren't going to be going down like we had thought. So we still underwrite our deals, and we are conservative, and we don't try to go and get the high price. We try to go get the price we know it's going to sell at because we want to turn those over. And that flip that we did, if we close on Friday like we're scheduled to.
So like literally in 2 days?
In 2 days, if we do that, we got that on December 12th and we're closing on January 31st. If we do that, that's like a 45-day turnaround.
Yeah.
That's extremely fast.
Yeah.
And so those are the types of things that we want to do. And we didn't just do a small rehab. We changed the roof. We changed the HVAC. We changed the water heater. We went in and repainted the whole outside, the inside, redid one of the master bathrooms. So it wasn't like we just, did nothing. Like we got in there, we got after it, and we got it listed as soon as possible.
Yeah. As far as team structure, is there anything specific that you're doing as you go from maybe doing 1, 2, 3 projects at a time to potentially, I don't know, what do you think your capacity is? Like maybe 10 at a time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think we figured out exactly what our capacity is just yet.
Yeah.
But what I can say is I'm in the process of integrating the sales business with the investment company.
Yeah.
And doing that by bringing on one of my partners, in a position that he can operate as my number 2, right? And I got that idea from Adam Whitney. He's also in the group, and he's a killer. Most people know who he is.
He's been on the show.
Yeah. So
shout out Adam.
Yeah, shout out to you, Adam. And so, great. The guy is great, and I'm excited for what we're going to be able to accomplish together, and then as a team, and then how we can, take what we're doing in the sales side and the investment side to grow the sales business, because that's our number 1 goal. Because if we can, create a great sales business that provides a great experience to investors or retail clients, then we're going to be able to invest more in other projects. So that's really what we want to do, and each one can help one another.
Yeah, cool. Do you have a target volume of like total projects you aim to do this year?
Yes, so we're on track to do 12 flips. Okay. And then we have the 8 units that we are currently under construction on.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that too.
Oh yeah, for sure. So then that would be, more new construction projects, so 8 of those, but I want to be able to start another 5 by the end of the year.
And maybe we'll get into that.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, right. So we want to do 12 flips this year, and then we would really like to find an 8 to 20 unit that we would then want to burr. Because we did an 8 unit last year. We just wrapped that up. We got a lease signed earlier this week, and now we're going to be ready to go and refinance that into a long-term, note, whether we get 20 or 30 AM. We're yet to see that. But thanks to Jared, got to give him a shout out on that. Jared Prevost, he's in this group as well with the lead investor. He is the one that saved that deal for us and allowed us to get money back out in a 9-day time frame. It was pretty crazy, and allowed us to get that project done.
I love it. I love it.
It's fantastic.
It's almost like you're cherry picking like resources, connections, value, deals, like all from within the group connections you made.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, I make these relationships with folks, and you don't think of anything of it. I think I read somewhere, provide value with no expectation of receiving anything ever. Yeah. And so made connections with these folks on a personal level, and next thing you know, I have a situation going on. We don't have problems, we have situations, and these folks help us solve that situation.
Yeah. Let's talk about the situation with so you have 8 units, that's all in one street, right? It's like,
yeah, it's pretty cool. It was 4 duplexes.
Yeah.
It was a fantastic pickup. We were able to put it together because John, one of our business partners, was doing a 1031 exchange and he was looking for something. And so I was out there hunting for deals and things like that. And, we found this. And initially we couldn't get it under contract because they had a big portfolio. They were trying to sell it to one person. Well, that fell through and that gave us an opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so we got them under contract. And then, while we were in the inspection period and, we were talking back and forth and I just kind of explained or said, out loud, I'm like, man, this is going to be a really fun project for you. I would, love to be a part of that. It's going to be really cool. And he's like, well, what does that look like? And I was like, well, you want me a part of it? And he's like, yeah, let's pencil this out. And so we had a great discussion that day and we came up with an idea of how my company, had some funding sitting on the sidelines that we had just gotten back from another project and we could utilize that to, do the build out and all that kind of thing. We ended up having to use it to close on it. And then Jared came in and saved the day.
Okay. So going to your ground up though.
Ground up.
Yeah,
sorry, my bad. I
It's
apologize.
okay.
I was thinking the 8-unit Burr.
But you have 8. I didn't realize they're all on the same street, both projects. But you have
No, they're on different streets. So one's at
Okay.
Homosassa. It was the 8-unit Burr. So apologize for being confusing there. But yes, then we have the 8-unit construction that we're doing, and those are 8 individual single-family homes on separate lots.
But aren't all those lots all on the same street?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay,
Well, so there's a chunk of them. So you have the front 4, and then you have the back 4. So different roads, going into them.
Yeah.
But they're all in the same chunk of land.
You're basically building a neighborhood.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, there's another 40 lots in there that there's a potential for us to partner with the owner on those because we bought those 8 from him. Mm-hmm. And if all goes well, like we planned it to, and we'll make it happen, then, there's an opportunity with him and he's excited about that. And we look forward. He was actually there last night at our event.
The owner was?
Well, the owner of the rest of the land, he was right there in the front row. His name's Ricardo. I don't know if you got an opportunity to meet him or not.
Right in the middle.
Yes, to the left of me right there. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, crazy, okay. All these things are interconnected. So talk to me about how that's gone, because you had previously never done a ground up development, right? And so this is kind of like your first foray. I actually remember distinctly talking to you about it on the phone. And I remember talking through timelines, right? Oh, we should be able to get this ready to go in it's something crazy. It was like 6 weeks. I was like, I don't know that that's going to be the case, man.
Oh man, yeah. So I was pie in the sky, but I came back down to reality, and we're aggressive, right?
Yeah.
If you're in the military, specifically the Marine Corps, you're going to be aggressive on stuff. So you I was thinking, okay, maybe a few weeks here and there, but I wasn't expecting 6 months. But I do give the county grace. That was the most where our holdup was. They got hacked right as we were going to buy the property.
Like cyber hacked.
Cyber hacked,
systems,
and their stuff was stolen and then held ransom and all this other kind of thing. So then that shut down county services forever, it seemed like. It was hard to close deals in Hernando County. So we get through that and you kind of think that it's going to work. Well, then there's an issue with the county. Had their, the property appraiser had the values messed up and they had to reconcile that with the state. So that shut them down for what was supposed to take 6 weeks, took 8 weeks. And then guess what happened? 3 hurricanes back to back in 3 different months. And so then the county shuts down for a week and a half for each one of those to do all the storm damage cleanup. And then we're like, okay, we're ready to go. Well, trim notices get sent out and you can't do a parcel split until you pay the taxes, and you can't pay the taxes until the trim notices are out and there's a specific day that you get them.
These are the things that come up, man.
That's what I mean. I wasn't expecting any of that, and so now those are things that I would be planning for in the future. So we learned your little cycle there is exactly what we were in. It was frustrating.
Yeah. Oh man, these things will test you, and it won't feel good as you're going through it. But man, I tell you, I think I learned something from every single project. There has never been a project, I was just talking about this the other day, there's never been a project where I was like, oh, the whole thing went perfect and there were no delays and no cost overruns and nothing surprising came up and it was all well and good. There have been some where it was minimal, but that's why I think, especially when you get into partnerships, the capacity to work together and solve problems is pretty important. I almost don't want to be involved with somebody who hasn't really solved enough problems or demonstrated capacity of if every single one of your projects was perfect, I don't know, have you been tested, right? I want to make sure we pass the test together. So that's just my ideology on it. Cool. So talk to me about the timeline a little bit with where you're at now with the 8 units ground up and where you project completion and kind of what the future looks like in your development.
Yeah, it's a great question because a couple things on that. So now it's into the construction phase. So it goes from the point of contact that I had been speaking to, right, about the situation to the construction manager, right? So the guy that does all the project management for the actual construction.
So you're in construction phase today?
We are right now.
Right.
I was out there yesterday and they were doing it in the rough ends.
Yeah.
So luckily the builder, was able to pull an early clear permit and, get the fill dirt out there and, kind of do some site prep and all that kind of stuff. We thought the county gave us the notice that we were approved, then pulled the permit back and said, hey, this has got to go to a flood zone review. So it was like something new that happened because of, the various hurricanes and stuff. So it got pulled back. But they were already kind of, planned and set up and ready to go. So we were held back a little bit longer. We get our legit permits last week. And so then they, were finalizing, getting the forms out there, getting ready for this week. And they're supposed to be, I thought they were going to be there on Monday. Well, then I drove by the project. I was like, man, it looks like it did on the other day. So I get a hold of the folks. We're going to be out there the following day. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to call the construction project manager and get the down and dirty what he thinks. And so we're talking. He's giving me the timeline for the next week or so. And I say, hey, when do you plan on having these done? And he's like, well, 90 days from now. And I was like, well, the expectations that we have is based off of the communication that we had with the owner that it will be completed within 60 days from the time that we get the permit. So our expectation is that this project will be done in 60 days.
Totally done from where you are now, which is
Correct.
rough in to CO?
Correct.
Wow.
So we are pushing that envelope, and they may or may not be able to execute on that. Again, that'll be a discussion that we have with the owner if we can't, right? Because that's what we sold our investors on. That's what we were sold on. And so those were expectations that we expect to be made.
Yeah.
And if there's another reason, a storm or something they can't,
Yeah. Material shortage,
yeah,
labor
whatever.
issue.
But, that is what we're doing. So it's stick built, right? So it's not, concrete block, right? Mm-hmm. We're trying to make these affordable for most people to be able to purchase. Yeah. And so that is the model that we went with. Because the area kind of calls for it. It's not the, top of the line area, but it's a nice one.
Yeah, yeah, building the right product for the right area.
Correct.
I think is important. Okay. It's interesting. I remember pretty clearly when we had our talk about this, you were like, hey, I want to do all these units. I was like, man, I recommend kind of a phased approach because if you encounter challenges like delays or issues with your builder, you guys might not be on the same page. Now you're not exposing the project to 20 units for your first one ever in this kind of arrangement. Maybe do 4, maybe do 8 or whatever. So,
and I'm glad. So what we did, we had enough people that were interested that we could have probably done all 8 at once. Yeah. And our builder wanted us to do that. But I just looked at the risk profile on that for us and our name and what it would be and all this other kind of thing. And I was like, you know what? We need to be smart about this. Let's do 2. Let's ensure that we can sell them for what we think we can sell them for.
I like that, yeah.
And then once we've set the comp for that area, then we can go and build the rest of them. Then it's kind of off to the races at that point once we have that done. So I'm extremely happy that we didn't go out and take $1 million or something crazy like that, to get them all done at one time.
Yeah, it's good. It's good risk mitigation.
Yeah, and I appreciate the advice because, I was ready to go. I was all in. So.
Yeah, good. What else? What else you want to talk about today?
Well, I just, want to talk about the networking, right? Like that is something that I think people don't take as serious as they should, right? And there's multiple different types of networks to be a part of.
For sure.
And
you should be a part of multiple, in my opinion.
Yeah, and not all of them have to be revolved around real estate, right? So I'm a part of a professional network called BNI or Business Networking International. It's like, all seated and there are different types of industries and things like that. And then I'm also a part of some local groups up in the Brooksville area. I'm also on the Main Street Board, Brooksville Main Street Board, which is, an organization that small towns have across America that allows or that is charged, at least what we've charged ourselves with is like historic preservation, economic development. We host events in the city, trying to bring folks to the city to help it grow smartly and things like that. So not limiting yourself. If you're a real estate investor, maybe that's where you start, right? In real estate, groups, and kind of get the word out there when you're in the beginning. But as you grow as a person and in business, you need to expand your, horizon and go out to other areas. Don't be afraid to go and talk to people, because I would not know my business partner John today if I hadn't been networking with other real estate investors and his wife wasn't brave enough to come up and talk to us. Because of that, we made a lifelong connection and a partnership that is going to be very, very lucrative.
Yeah, what's that saying? It's like between now and your next 5 years, the changes and growth that you experience are subject to the people that you meet and the things that you learn.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm learning a ton. I'm growing a lot, and that's just something that I love doing, and that's, like becoming more and more things that I'm passionate about every single day.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Gauging now, just hearing you talk and knowing what you were looking at a year ago, it's impressive. It's impressive all the growth that you've seen. I mean, we gave you the growth award at our last Elite Investor event in December. Certainly well deserved. I think you actually did triple your net profit in I think it was short of a year, right?
Yeah, it was quick. I mean, I made $1,000 in January, right? And I made like $5,000 in February, right? Mm-hmm. And then by the end of the year, we're up to like $360,000 of revenue in our business. So I was like, starting out pretty light, and we finished off really strong, but we took a lot of steps in there to ensure that would happen.
Yeah, man. The growth that people see is, I say this like every episode, I feel like the growth that people see is precedented by the work that nobody sees, the hard work that's done more in private, the challenges that you overcome, the vision, the belief, the working with teammates, growing a team, sometimes having to fire people, unfortunately, that's part of it. But a lot of people, it's easy to look from the outside for a lot of people and say, oh, must be nice to be Justin. Like, you earned that. You earned that.
Exactly. And the more that I do and the harder that I work, the more I know and respect myself, which is important. Again, leading yourself first, right? The number one principle that you had last night that you talked about. And so as I led myself better, the better I'm becoming, the better my team is becoming, the better that everyone else around me is becoming, because I no longer have time to be around people who don't want to grow, that don't want to, do better for their community and their life.
Say that again. Will you say that again? I want you to say that again. That was just...
Yeah, it's a good little nugget there. Yeah, so I just want to be around people who want to grow, that want to learn, that want to become better, not only for themselves, but for the people around them and their community.
But you don't have the time.
Oh, yes.
You don't have the time. Exactly. You don't have the capacity to be around people who aren't like that.
No, I don't. I really don't. And I, love a lot of those people. They've been, good, lifelong friends, and I still want to, have a relationship with them. But at this moment in my life, like, I am on a growth track that I'm trying to execute on my vision. I've got a vision board, and I looked at it, and I don't even need to look at it anymore because it's right here and printed in my head, because I sit there and looked at it so much. And so I'm now executing on that vision, and to do that, I have to be very disciplined in my life and for my personal, for what I want to achieve in my life.
The things that you identify as what things you used to do and now you have to say no to, I think are a key trait for a leader that is leaning into growth.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what you're doing.
Yes, and it feels good. I mean, it gets a little rocky, when you get to that growth phase, and you get punched in the face, right? But then you got to roll with it and just, pick yourself up, understand you can go to bed, wake up, and be refreshed in the new day, and then, move forward.
Most of us right now have what we need. You have what you need. Your family is safe. You have a roof over your head. You have access to food. You have access to water. You can go to the gym. Like most of the things that we look at as I want this are a function of want. Mm-hmm. It's okay to want what you want. I encourage you to want what you want. And what you want might be different from what I want, different from what someone else wants. But I think it's also important to really reflect and be grateful that we have everything we need. Yeah. We have everything we need. This is a function of want. And go get after it.
Exactly.
It's good to want you want.
And it took me a while to learn that, right? Because I thought I needed something for the longest time. And when you come from a needy place, you don't come from a place of an abundance, which you glossed over last night, by the way. And I wanted to touch more on that. Yeah. But want to come from a place of an abundance. And when you have an abundance mindset, that means if you want something, that's okay. Because if you work hard enough, you'll get it. Like it may not be tomorrow, it may be, a year from now, 10 years from now, but if you continue to put in the work every single day, I am learning. Like I'm the guy. Like I'm the guy that came from a small town in Florida that, didn't know anything about real estate or money. And now I've set up my life in a way, and I'm structuring it even better, and I'm trying to optimize it every single day. So that way, that vision that I've had since I was a little kid about being, a billionaire or something crazy like that, the lottery is never going to get me there. The hard work every single day, that's what's going to get me there.
And it's not just changing your life, it's changing your family's life, and it's changing the lives of those around you.
Oh, exactly.
Everything you touch can turn to gold.
You did say that last night.
Everything you touch can turn to gold. It's just a function of earning it every day and surrounding yourself with the right people. If you do those things, you do them consistently, you do them right, everything you touch can turn to gold.